I'm sure you've heard this many, many times, Paul, but the film is exceptional.
Oh,
And
thank you so much.
I mean, you've been acting for a number of years. You must have got this screenplay through and just thought, yes. Like, it almost feels like tailor-made for you. I mean, in regards to your own experiences and knowledge about this world.
Well, absolutely. I read it. There was so many similar experiences that I've had. So, and you know, as I've said this a few times, when you move out here to Hollywood, every guy that works in the 7-Eleven or pumps gas or whatever is writing a screenplay about himself that will star himself. So when I moved here, I was no different. I'm writing this because people always say to me, you should write a story about your life. It's so interesting. You did this, you done this, your parents are deaf. So I did. I started writing a screenplay. And I would always imagine myself starring in a role that was about my life for 20 years, Stefan, 20, okay? Different writing partners. And people that know me very well, after they see the movie, they're contacting me from all over the country saying, you did it, you wrote the screenplay. I said, no, I didn't. But isn't it interesting? I still had the goal in mind to write a role that featured something that I'd been through that would be authentic and have an empathetic character, all that stuff. And another guy was doing it for me while I was doing it. But no, I did not write it. But yes, that's how similar to my experience it's been.
Yeah, I mean, because I was wondering too. I mean, as someone who grew up, as you mentioned, with deaf parents, and I'm sure because of that, you've seen so many films depicting this condition before. How unique a movie is Sound of Metal in exploring and showing us this world?
Well, yes. Ever since 1948, that's the year that I was born, Jane Wyman won the Academy Award and Johnny Belinda playing a deaf woman. And Mia Farrow did a remake of it in the 70s. And every time to people that know deaf culture, to our eye, it just doesn't feel right. Something wrong with it. So deaf people have been almost militantly offended and complaining that they need more authenticity. You know why? There's tons of talented deaf actors out there, men and women that I've worked with at Deaf West Theater in Los Angeles. And so you can imagine if you're in that community and you're seeing hearing people coming in taking these roles, it doesn't go over too well. So they are thrilled now that you get to see a deaf sober house. That really exists. You know, if as a sign language interpreter, I would go through these hearing addiction programs, just shadowing a deaf guy through the whole program. And they're absolutely sometimes being set up for failure because they're like a fish out of water in another culture. But the deaf sober house that Darius portrays in his screenplay in Sound of the Metal, that's a wonderful concept, and it does occur throughout the country.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I mean, you forget that everyone's flawed. I mean, there's this kind of bullshit notion in Hollywood where anyone who has a disability is like an angel, but like the rest of humanity, everyone has made mistakes. Everyone has messed up at some point. So was that another big key thing to show in this film?
Yes, and that's what deaf people are saying. Thank you for showing deaf addicts. What? Well, because they're either an ancillary character, you see them in the elevator scene one time, or they're for comic relief. So they're deaf addicts. They have the same foibles, the same struggles that you and I have. There's only one difference: they can't hear. There are deaf lawyers, deaf doctors, deaf accountants, deaf everything, deaf good people, deaf bad people. So this is a great beginning, or a great expansion of awareness that they're everywhere and they do and feel and express everything that we in hearing culture express and do.
You mentioned, I mean, obviously there are lots of the supporting characters in this have gone to deaf actors. Did Darius use your skills and skill set as a means of communicating instructions from himself to some of the deaf members of cast?
Now and then we would, yes, but I had my own work to do. So Darius was very, very mindful of that. We had excellent certified sign language interpreters on the set. So he actually communicated with a lot of deaf actors through them. He was so aware of what I had to do and aware that it wouldn't be a good use of my my energy, because, you know, growing up as a boy in Chicago, there was no sign language interpreting profession. I was the go-between between my parents and buying a car, between my parents and paying the electric bill, between my parents and everybody. And so as a child, that's not a good place you should be putting a kid. So likewise on the movie set, because Darius had done his homework and knew that that was such a burden to put on somebody, he tried not to do that. Although it was my own energy, I'm so used to doing it. If I saw something I thought was going on, I'd jump in, and Darius like, hold on now, we'll use the interpreter. You know, go learn your lines. So that kind of thing.
And there was an interesting line that stuck with me, and I'm paraphrasing somewhat, but when you were speaking to Ruben, saying that deaf people do not see what they have as disability, and those who seek to rectify it, say with treatment, is almost seen as being like a kind of traitor. Is that a true notion of the community? Because when Ruben sort of has the operation, is that frowned upon in some parts of the community?
In some parts, yes, not as a whole. It's a personal choice, personal journey, personal decision. But, you know, the attitude, when I grew up in the 50s as a little boy, I got the feeling that my dad felt very oppressed. So he felt, and there was, the deaf community's gone through the label of hearing impaired. Well, you can't call a deaf person hearing impaired anymore. They say the philosophy has shifted it to, I'm perfect, I'm whole, I'm complete just as I am. Who's impaired if you cannot speak American Sign Language? Okay. So that puts it on you, I guess, to make a gesture of some kind to communicate. But I've seen it shift from the 50s and 60s of, oh, well, I'm deaf. I can't, you know, the hearing guy's got his hand in my pocket. I can't get over, you know, to hold on a second. I'm not impaired. I'm whole and complete, just I am. There's deaf pride. It was funny at the same time in the 70s, you know, when Fred Hampton was going around as a deaf panther. If you've seen Judas and the Black Messiah, at the same time, my mother and father were fighting for deaf rights. I used to call my mother a deaf panther. So, because she was going through the same struggle. There was no technology. There was no closed captioning for TV, for films. You're cut off from pop culture in a very isolating way. And things are different now, thank God.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, your incredible performance has been rewarded with an Oscar nomination. That must have been incredible when you heard that news. Where were you when you found out?
Well, I don't have an alarm clock. I have a brain clock that wakes me up in the morning. But that morning, my brain clock, for some reason, wasn't on. I look at the clock. It's 5:25. I go, oh, shit. So my wife and I, we get up. We run in the living room, turn on the TV, and it's kind of coming, you know, very slowly. And they're on Best Supporting Actor nominations right there, and they're on the second name. And I'm standing there. And bam, she goes, Paul Raci. And I go, no, it's Paul Raci, but I accept. And then the phone started ringing, and bottles of wine, flowers. Oh my God, the house, and it's still dark out here at 5:30 in the morning. And it was like a big party happening here. My wife's crying. My daughter's jumping up and down.
Yeah, incredible. Have you picked out your suit yet? Do you know what you're going to wear?
To the Oscars?
Yeah.
Oh, Fabio's dressing me, don't you know?
Nice.
Very nice. Just had a meeting with him.
Oh.
So yeah, he's dressing me. And so, you know, it's like that now.
Yeah, you've changed, man. No, but it's not just you rewarded. I mean, obviously, loads of those who work behind the scenes, but notably as well, Riz Ahmed with a Best Actor nomination. You obviously shared some really big, in-depth scenes of him. He is some actor, isn't he? I mean, you can tell just from his performances that he gives everything to a role almost seems like an understatement.
He's brilliant. All I can say is he's brilliant. He's serious, man. And I really respect this guy. Darius Marder did a brilliant thing. We shot the film chronologically. So the first day I'd gotten on the set, I was only there for 3 weeks, met Riz. We got made up in the trailer. Didn't say 2 words to each other, really. We got to know each other as the characters are getting to know each other in the script. We're getting to know each other as men and actors. So that very first scene that we have together, where it's the intake scene where he has the first meeting with me. I don't know this guy. He didn't know me. It's perfect. Then 3 weeks later, when we shot our last scene, we're saying goodbye to each other as actors, as characters. This wonderful experience we'd had with all these deaf actors in that sober house. So, and it was all chronological. So I'm getting to know him in real life and also in the film. It was a brilliant move on Darius's part, and he insisted on shooting it chronologically. So I thought that was brilliant. But Riz Ahmed, I can't say enough about it. And I've said this 1,000 times, Stefan. I'm so grateful to him for breaking my heart. And every scene I had with him broke my heart.
Yeah, we broke my heart as an audience member too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my final question, I mean, it's kind of mad to call this a breakout role when you've been active for such a long time, but you know, I'm just wondering, because obviously when roles like this get thrust into the limelight and you've got an Oscar nomination, it could lead on to more kind of projects coming your way. Are you interested now in kind of trying your hand at bigger budget films, maybe blockbusters, things like that, things that you've never kind of sort of necessarily had kind of major roles in before? Or are you just driven by the characters at hand and the stories being told?
I'm interested in everything. I'm open. But I listen. I used to be really open. I'll do anything. But after doing this Joe character, now I've got Team Paul looking out for me, and I've got to be very careful about what I'm going to do next. And so I'm going to be. For the first time in my life, Stefan, I'm turning roles down for the first time. I've turned down about 10 things so far. And I would never do that. But I haven't seen anything I think is worth it so far, but I'm still looking. But I am wide open.
Oh, they'll come. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Paul. It's been a real pleasure. Best of luck. I'll be rooting for you at the Oscars.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you very much.
You too. Take care, man. Bye-bye. See you later.
You too.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.